You're looking for the pulse of Tampa Bay sports. Beckles and Recher is the #1 source. The new guard, raising up the bar. Intelligent sports talk in your own backyard. Ain't no competition, ask the fans why. Beckles and Recher got it by a landslide. Don't fret, microphone check, stand by. Yo, Fox, where they at? Who my two favorite guys?
Here they go,
Here they go,
here they go,
here they go,
here they go, here they go,
here they go,
here they go,
here they go,
here they go,
here they go,
here they go, here they go.
here they go.
Beckles and Recher. Woo, woo.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to the Beckles and Recher podcast. We're hanging out here in the bowels
In the bowels.
of the Dignitary Cafe as Tom Ponzo kicks on the lights. You can't take him nowhere.
Can't take him
That's what
anywhere.
I'm saying, though. So we have our new setup here at the Dignitary Cafe. You know, we're always changing. Changing, it happens that way. But we're hanging out. We have a lot to talk about today. I hope everybody likes the settings. My man Jimi Hendrix all over the place.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the coolest people to ever walk the planet.
Stroke the furry walls.
If you get to have dinner with one person, who would you be? I think mine would be Jimi Hendrix.
Really?
I really-
Everybody?
yeah.
Dead or alive?
Yeah, I really like Jimmy. I just thought he was cool, though. You know what I mean? We'd have a
get
good
that.
conversation. I mean, I don't think you could say Martin Luther King, but what is he gonna tell me? Because I've seen what happened since his death. What's he gonna tell me? You know what I'm saying?
You can say the thing about Jimi Hendrix, though. You
Well,
already
Jimmy,
know what his music
but I
sounds
just want to to vibe with him. You know, just be cool and cooling out. You know,
like. Vibe with him.
we got a lot in common.
Like to... Jackie Robinson would be fascinating.
Okay, Jackie would have some good bad stories.
I mean, I want depth.
Well, there-
If you're bringing somebody back, I want depth.
Yeah, but that's pretty deep. I don't know if I want to feel like that, though. I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, if you want to meet one person, you want to keep it on the up and up, you think?
Well, but I want to keep it up, like up tempo. Like with Jackie Robinson, I think that'd be a good night to sit and listen and talk to him. Would be
Right.
great. But just for like having dinner with him, I think that would bring, because his stories are not going to be uplifting.
No, that's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
What
you
about
know,
Babe Ruth?
I don't know enough about Babe
You
Ruth.
gotta look into it. I talk too much smack about Babe.
You
Yeah.
thought was he a good person?
Huh?
Was he a good person? I don't know. I haven't heard bad stories. Like I heard Ty Cobb stories, and I'm like, Jesus, criminy. This guy was a criminal. I don't think I've ever heard any negative Babe Ruth stories. I don't know though.
Just the way that he helped grow the game. They went on these barnstorming tours where they traveled across the country, helped grow the game, and I just still think people look at it now like, oh, it wasn't integrated, so away from what he did. Like,
No, it didn't.
I mean,
No, it didn't.
regardless of what Shohei has done, right? It's phenomenal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Babe Ruth hit more home runs than teams. Teams.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, I mean, regardless. I mean, if that's the case, then nobody else. You know what I mean? Like, are we taking away everybody else's stuff because it wasn't integrated? Like, it's weird. It's like, let's only take away Babe Ruth because of the lack of integration. All right, well, let's take away Cy Young's 511 wins and all the hits from Ty Cobb. Like, it's just so weird.
My thing, I hate when this is similar when somebody says, well, if so-and-so played in this generation, you can't do that.
We don't know.
If they were the best in their generation, if they're in this generation, they would act like people in this generation. If Wilt Chamberlain was in this generation, he would look different, act different. He'd have had trainers since he was 12 years old, instead of just being a big lanky kid out there just eating up everybody. So you're going to be a different athlete. So to me, if you're great in any generation, and I always say I couldn't have played in today's generation.
You could have.
I don't know if I could. I don't know if I'm big enough. I don't know if I'm big enough.
1,000% you could have. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why.
Please.
Is because your preparation would have been different. You would have had more things at your disposal.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe, so look at it like this, right? Maybe you're a center. Maybe you look at yourself early on, and maybe you have an example of a player, and you go, "Well, that center's not as big as a." So where you were maybe thinking about being a tackle, and you settled in at guard, maybe you're a center right off the rip. And
that's not crazy.
No, hell no. I mean, look at Jason Kelsey. You
that's
can't
not
be that
crazy.
much different than Jason Kelsey.
Oh, maybe not.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe,
man. Wait, what's
maybe
your,
not.
let's-
I mean, size-wise, we're probably very similar size-wise. Kelsey's probably 6'1". You don't look much taller than 6'1", maybe 6'2".
They say he's 6'3", 295. I think they're being generous.
He don't look 6'3" to me.
Hell no.
But you know what, Jason Kelsey, by the way, Jason Kelsey wore my number after me. So I really didn't want to like him. And I didn't want him to be good.
Easy.
I really didn't want him to be good.
Very easy.
Then I started to watch. You know what I said to myself? Well, Ian, sucks to be you because that son of a bitch can play. He can just play. He can just play, okay? Yeah. You're not allowed to say Jason Kelsey's not a great center because every time I watched him play, he was great. Every time. To me, he's Mark Stepnowski plus 30 pounds because Mark Stepnowski would get overpowered sometimes because he was little. But Kelsey would pull and disrupt things, man.
Well, the pre-snap stuff that he would call out, like he was so smart. You know, you have to have and you know this better than me, like you have to have when you have a consistent, good offensive line like Philadelphia has every year, I think you need good coaching, good players, and good leaders.
Yes.
He was a fantastic leader.
Correct.
And when you lose the guys over the years like the Jason Peters of the world, and you're still good, right? I'm always fascinated about that in sports where, you know, a position group specifically is so good from year to year because it's like the Rays with pitching. Mm-hmm. Like they've been good for so long, regardless of what they don't do well. Mm-hmm. Think about all the pitchers over the years, from Kazmir to Shields to Price to Snell to Archer to Glasnow to McClanahan
Casey
to Pepio.
Fossum?
What? I won't besmirch him, but I ain't putting him in the convo. I ain't putting him in the convo
Casey
now.
Fossum, though?
Yeah, the Fossum, Florida. I think I can hit Casey Fossum. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there's certain
Seth
teams. You ever meet Seth McClung?
I haven't.
I party with Seth
Yeah,
McClung.
nice guy.
He had a blast.
Yeah?
Different Jay Recher, buddy. You never knew that guy.
Well,
that was early 20s
that
Jay
was
Recher.
a different Ian Beckles back in the day, too.
I
was different, too, now.
Yeah, that was a lot. That was a lot of that.
I was a lot different.
Yeah, you sure as hell
I
was.
sure was.
But yeah, I mean, I get fascinated by some of these groups that are so good from generation to generation. Like Pittsburgh linebackers. I don't know what it is about those guys. I want to talk to you. I want to ask you about the Bucs. They just finished up the NFL meetings there in West Palm. And there was a couple of things about Todd Bowles that I wanted to get your opinion on. First off, him saying that the team didn't have killer instinct last year, which I thought was very interesting because you're looking at a team that made the playoffs once again, won the division once again. But that that's one of those things I don't necessarily want to hear from my coach. Like if I'm a team coming back, and maybe real, maybe honest, and you want that from your coach, but you don't want to hear that you don't have killer instinct. It's almost a challenging of your manhood. Did you see that same thing? I mean, obviously we have to trust him. He's the head coach, but can you change that? Because you're not bringing in a bunch of new guys. Even though you're bringing a Hassan Reddick, I don't know if you're bringing in an Ndamukong Suh or JPP. Like we've talked about how that mindset changed when you went from kind of the Gerald McCoy era of the Buccaneers to Ndamukong Suh, JPP, and those guys. So,
well, wait, you said you said McCoy era, then you said the other guys, but it's not an era. Why does Gerald get eras? Because he said it himself.
No, I think Gerald McCoy. That was an era. I mean, when you were first, listen,
Did
when you're
Sapp have an era?
100%.
I've never heard the Sapp era before.
But it's different for him because I think he had success as a group.
But I've heard Gerald say Gerald era, and it made me sick to my stomach.
Well, it's almost like speaking about yourself in the third person.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So once again, you know, I have an issue with him. Not so much. I didn't think he was that great of a football player. I thought he was non-instinctive, but somebody was talking about leadership. Then I hear Gerald. He was on the Mike Calter show talking about. He said the Gerald era 3 times. You like that?
That doesn't bother me.
Oh, because you like the guy.
No, I don't.
It's because you do like the guy, though.
I do, but I don't think that has anything to do with that.
But you don't. But you've never heard Sapp say Sapp era. You never heard Brooks say Brooks era.
But if you
never heard Lynch say Lynch era.
I wouldn't think any less.
I would never say the Ian Beckles. I wouldn't, Jay.
I think it bothers you more because you don't like the guy.
Okay. But you know I would never say the Ian Beckles era, and Sapp would never say the Sapp because it's not his era.
No, but if he did. Well, he's not saying the era like
yes,
it was
he is.
just him.
He just says it said the Gerald era. Then he talked about how bad they were.
Okay.
He said the Gerald era. Then he talked about how bad they were.
So you didn't think that it was just him saying it?
That's the same thing as Cam Newton saying all his players weren't good. It's the same thing.
I think.
Okay.
But there's more. It's black and white with Cam Newton. If Gerald McCoy used that quote, the Gerald McCoy era, describing his tenure with the Buccaneers. I don't know if it's that malevolent. I don't think if it's that
It's
bad.
exactly what he was, which was self-absorbed.
That could be right or wrong, regardless.
Okay.
But
once again, leaders don't say I'm a leader. Never. You'll never hear it. And I heard him say I'm a leader. I could pull up 50 times.
So if
I'm a leader, I'm a leader.
If Peyton Manning says during the Peyton era in Indianapolis,
he won't.
Ever?
He won't. Nah, I don't think
look
so.
it up.
I think he's better than that. I'm being
I
serious
think
about
you're
that.
looking at it maybe a little bit
All right,
too.
you can find it.
Yeah.
This is the thing.
So what if I do
Peyton,
find it then?
Peyton has every right.
Does it change?
Peyton has every right.
So now that's a
okay,
different
but
that's a
okay, but
different
listen to me.
conversation,
Listen to me though.
That's a different
But listen
conversation.
to me though.
You can't
Listen.
say a guy earns it or doesn't.
I want you
earn
to
it,
listen to
or
me.
he's a guy that's a.
I want
speaks
you
in
to
third
listen to
person.
me.
I'm a
The
realist.
people who have the right don't.
Okay.
That's all I'm trying to
What
say.
if, but you can't.
He
but
has
that's-
every
but
right.
Again, Ian, that's another part of the conversation. That's the third part of the conversation.
But you won't find it.
You went from
You
guys
won't find
that
it.
you went from guys that do it or don't do it to guys that earn it, and then guys that wouldn't do it even if they
Go
earn
get
it.
some
There's a difference.
microfiche and try to find it. You're not going to find the Peyton thing, the Peyton era. It's just it's self-absorbed. And look at me.
But what
I don't
if it's
see Peyton
more-
Manning being that
So
person.
if he said it one time, does it bother you because he said it 3 times?
If
it was more of a
it
ti-
bothers me because I think that's the person he was, and he basically reiterated it by kept on saying,
But
saying
I'm
that.
saying if he said it more of like a tongue-in-cheek throwaway comment, because I could see Eli Manning saying that. You know, they're in the Eli era. You know, I was a 500 quarterback. It's almost self-deprecating.
100%.
But that's what I'm saying,
Well,
right?
well,
But that's
your
why context
personality
is key.
is going to play into it a little bit.
So you agree context is key, the way that he said it.
Your personality is key.
Well, that
Because-
goes into
because
it.
some people-
because that's what defines the context is your personality, right? Because you are taking it in a way where if Gerald said it one time, but you knew he wasn't like that, you wouldn't
But he
take
is
it
like
that
that,
way.
though.
But that's what I'm saying. The
Okay.
personality
Well,
creates
maybe
the
we're saying
context.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we're saying the same thing. And I think if you didn't like an athlete, and I don't like Gerald McCoy, I don't like what he stands for. That's me, okay? If you didn't like somebody and they did that, it would bother you. That's just, it has to. It has to. Especially since,
I think it can
listen to me
aid in the
quickly.
argument. I don't
Listen
think
to
it
me
makes the
quickly.
argument, though.
Especially since he had success.
Yeah.
None. He didn't have numbers.
So I think
But he
it
has
is
an era.
a
So we have
self-deprecation.
people have success and numbers that they don't have eras.
There are bad errors out there.
Yikes.
Hey, but to be fair, is he a Ring of Honor player?
Yes, but it's a
there you
technicality.
go.
It's a technicality.
Nah, it's not a
Yes, it is.
technicality.
Yes, it is.
What is it?
What, you want me to make it a technicality?
How is it a technicality?
Watch me make
It's
it a
numbers.
Watch me.
He's
No,
got numbers.
no. Nope.
Then
No,
why
watch
is-
me.
why is he
Watch
Pro Bowler
me,
then?
Jay. Watch me, Jay. It's honors. It's not numbers. Watch me. If I put Gerald McCoy in the middle of the Buccaneers in the early 2000s,
Yeah, but-
okay, no.
You can't do that.
No, yes, you can.
No, you
Listen to me.
can't.
Listen
Paul-
to
then
me.
why did Paul
Let me
Gruber
speak
make
for
the
a
game?
second.
Why did Paul Gruber make the Ring
Because
of Honor
Paul
then?
Gruber started 10 straight years and didn't miss a snap.
So he has
That's why.
numbers instead of honors.
Okay, but listen to me. Simeon Rice isn't in the Ring of Honor. You think Gerald McCoy's numbers could go up against Simeon Rice's? Gerald McCoy's numbers are equivalent to Brad Culpepper's numbers. He's never going to be in the Ring of Honor. Steve White had better numbers. Chidi Hanatu had
So
better
why
numbers.
is he getting in then?
Because it was a time. It was
was
a
an
time.
era.
It was. F you. It was an era that we sucked, and we used to blow Gerald McCoy because he got 6 sacks on a terrible team when he was a one-way player. That's all I said.
That's it.
But he wouldn't even have played that much for those late 90 teams. He wouldn't have played.
But
Who would he
Ian,
have played for?
If you do that in any sport, you can do that for any team, and you can take a player that was the best player on the worst team in that franchise's history, and then try to compare him to the best teams in the history of that franchise. That's not fair. Like you can't compare those.
Nobody's
Impossible.
Nobody's
You
ever
can't
going to say
take-
Gerald
you
McCoy is
can't-
the best at
Look,
anything.
I'm going to give you a good
Never.
example. I'm going to give you a
Never.
good example. Here's a great example.
Never.
Are you going to compare Brian Bradley to Martin St. Louis and Vinny LeCavalier and Steven Stamkos
No, of
and
course-
Martin
of
St.
course
Louis?
not.
But if you
Of
look
course
at
not.
Brian Bradley's career,
Mm-hmm.
it looks a lot like who? Gerald McCoy's. He got some honors.
Okay.
He was the best player
Okay.
on one of the worst eras of Tampa Bay Lightning hockey. But we don't look at him differently. Why?
Well, I think because
Why?
Brian Bradley, he's a pioneer, though. He's still a pioneer. Gerald McCoy is nothing.
Okay.
He didn't accomplish anything. He really didn't. He really didn't. They didn't win anything. He didn't get. I mean, their defense was really poorly ranked every single year. He didn't have statistics.
But what's
He
more
didn't get
important, though?
tackles. He didn't get sacks. But he kept on telling us he's a leader, and he was going to Pro Bowls because there really wasn't that many other defensive tackles in the league at that time. So I could be talking out my ass, but that's where I watch. That's where at that time I couldn't name 2 other defensive tackles. If there was Aaron Donald was in the league and these other Leon Letts and stuff, Gerald wouldn't have made it. So it was a technicality, and God bless him. It's a process. I can't take that away from him. And I'm the first person that said he belongs in the Ring of Honor because it's about, pageantry and trophies and stuff like that. Not winning trophies, but accolades. He deserves to go. But I don't want anybody to tell me he's one of the best ever because he's not. That's just like somebody saying to me, Kendrick Lamar is the best rapper ever. If you put him in the 80s and the 90s, he'd just be a guy. That's the difference. Gerald McCoy is in. Kendrick Lamar and Gerald McCoy are very similar to me. But Kendrick Lamar is way better.
Fired up about Gerald today. He's got 140 games played. Where do you think that where do you think that ranks?
Where does it rank? Probably 6. I know I'm 10.
Most games played?
No, for offensive linemen.
Yeah.
It's high.
More than Paul Gruber?
Yeah, okay.
That's what I'm saying.
But that's not the only thing, though.
You're moving the goalposts here. You're saying
what
that
goalposts?
the numbers for Paul Gruber.
But once again, Paul Gruber was also, I thought,
Pro Bowler?
I don't think he ever made a Pro Bowl. Listen, I'm the first person that said Tony Mayberry should have been in before Paul Gruber.
I don't disagree with you.
I said that.
But it can't be numbers for one guy and honors for the other.
Listen to me. I heard Paul Gruber say Paul Gruber era. And I said
Did he earn it?
They both. Who earned it?
Did he earn it more than Gerald McCoy? You think Paul Gruber was a better Buccaneer than Gerald McCoy?
I don't think it's from me to measure.
It's
No, I'm being serious.
It's convenient that you answer it like that.
Listen.
It's convenient you answer it like that.
We're arguing different things. They both deserve to be in the Ring of Honor. I said that.
Okay.
That's all we're talking about. I'm talking about somebody being one of the best ever. If you say one of the best ever offensive line, Gerald McCoy's not one of the best ever in anything.
Never said that.
I don't think
I would
anybody.
never say that.
And when they talk about the greatest ever, Gerald McCoy's never anybody.
Of course not.
Anybody.
Neither is Paul Gruber.
Yeah, I think he will. At that time, he was one of the better tackles. He was.
I mean, you can't say that. If the guy never made the Pro Bowl, not one time, whether it's a popularity contest or not, if he was that good.
Watch me flip it on you, Jay. Watch me flipping it on you. You watching it? John Madden told me he'd never heard of me in my 9th year of the league. So you think I'm going to make a Pro Bowl? I could have been here, and there was times, Jay, I went 18 straight games without giving up a sack, and nobody knew. Nobody knew what I was doing because nobody was watching. We were blacked out. Nobody ever watched.
You weren't winning.
Correct. That's the thing. But that has nothing to do with how good you are,
What's more important to a team's success, the right guard or the left tackle?
Doesn't matter. When we talk about who
gets paid more.
Always left tackle. Well, I'm talking about
the most important thing to do on the offensive line is to protect the blind side of the quarterback.
Okay, what I'm trying to get to is you're saying that he wasn't something because he didn't go to Pro Bowl. On everything I love, there's times that I played better than the guys in the Pro Bowl. On everything I love, I'll put my film up against it. The Pro Bowl is not about who played best because if you're Nate Newton and you play for the Dallas Cowboys,
I mean, again,
well, okay, but Jay, that's who I was going up against.
I understand, but those you can't when you're having comparisons about players in the middle of the pack. You can't compare it to the Cowboys.
But that's who makes the
27 Yankees.
You're going to say the same thing.
What about a guy like Joe Thomas? They sucked every year.
Okay, but Joe Thomas,
every year
there's nothing they can say about it. Joe Thomas was just. Paul Gruber wasn't Joe Thomas. I never said he was that.
He was an
all-in. But not making the Pro Bowl is not enough to say he wasn't something.
On the worst team in football. Your guy didn't make one Pro Bowl, not one year, not even as an alternate.
I never compared Paul Gruber to Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas was one of the best tackles ever played. Right. I didn't say Paul Gruber was one of the best tackles ever played.
How come
all I said was just not making a Pro Bowl doesn't say what you were as a player because there's a lot of great players on lesser teams because I used to watch guys go to the Pro Bowl that were just on better teams than me all the time. The Cowboys had a tight end, a tackle, a guard, a center, the other guard, the fullback. We can name them all. But they didn't mean they played great that year. It just means that year they won.
Get into the conversation.
That's it. Okay, the year before I left, okay, the Bucs had no Pro Bowlers. Then the next year, when they went to the playoffs, they had 8. They didn't play that much better. They just won games and people were talking about them. So it's a popularity thing.
It is, but if the attention is there or not there, that has
nothing to do with your play, though. Attention and
part of it,
and winning.
You can't
has
play
nothing
terrible,
to do.
Ian.
Nope, that's wrong. Terrible. That's wrong, Jay. I can play amazing, and we can be 0-16. That's a fact.
No, but I'm saying a guy is not going to be a Pro Bowler if he plays terrible and you put terrible things on him.
No, not terrible. Not nearly as good as you think he played.
No.
There's a lot of names.
Bro, and it's harder for positions like the offensive line. I get that because you can't directly denote statistics like you can with a running back and a wide receiver. Right? If a guy doesn't run, like, you could tell a running back fell off if he ran for 1,200 and the next year he ran for 600. He ain't making a Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
But an offensive lineman, people don't, even PFF doesn't know how to
If
grade
I
those
showed
guys.
you the process of how they voted for the Pro Bowl back in the day, Jay, they literally hand out sheets in a room, and they have the DBs vote for the offensive lineman. How the hell do you think the DBs know what the offensive linemen are?
No idea.
You think I know who the good DBs are? You think I do? You think in a film I'm watching the DBs?
So going back to it, so how did Gerald make the Pro Bowl then?
Because
Hold on, because those teams got, you just said, Paul Gruber didn't make the Pro Bowl. Guys in the Buccaneers didn't make the Pro Bowl because the games were blacked out. Gerald McCoy's games were blacked out too.
I know.
They
I'll
were
explain it to you.
terrible.
I'll explain it to you.
So how?
Go back to all of the games that Gerald McCoy plays. And Gerald McCoy, and you know he's a good guy. And the press loves him. Everybody still loves him. Every game, it's Buccaneer defense led by Gerald McCoy. As they say it, all go back and listen.
So who's voting? But if the players are voting, what does it care
but
about?
If people are
the press?
watching, if people are watching the game,
They couldn't. It was blacked out.
Okay, but if they are watching it, they're going to hear defense led by Gerald McCoy. So when you read
But
the
they
paper,
lost, so
when
why
you
would
read
you
the
say that when you
paper-
lose?
Oh, well, if Rick Stroud writes something or whoever writes something and he likes Gerald McCoy, he can write Gerald played, and we read things and we think that that's law. But people that like people don't really dog them out in the press. That's a fact. I've been in the press a long time. And a lot of times, and I'm not the guy, whether I like you or not, I'm going to say the way you play. I remember Dave Moore dropped the pass, didn't play well. Dave played like shit. And if I saw Dave, I'd say, you played like shit. That's it. That's why not everybody's like that. So we leave it to the press a lot, and the press has a lot to do with somebody goes to the Pro Bowl or not. That's all we hear. They can say you can write what you want. I told you it's time somebody wrote I played like crap and I played great. So that a lot of teams, they don't have any other way to hear stuff but what people tell them. They're not really watching. And at that time, I'm telling you, there was no other defensive tackles. There was none. They just almost didn't exist. That was before my boy Donald and all those guys. So it was kind of a technicality. There's times where the best players were inside. I played with Sapp and Randall and Howie Long, and there's just not a lot of that. There wasn't a lot of that in that era. So we got lucky.
Dominican Sue?
Dominican Sue, I remember Dominican Sue was the same time as Gerald. The whole time in Dominican Sue was elsewhere, I go, get me him. The whole time. People used to he's not better than Gerald McCoy. I said, no, you're wrong. I'll take a Dominican Sue every time. And when Dominican Sue got here, immediately the defense changed. Everywhere Dominican Sue went, the defense was mean and nasty. And go back to Todd Bowles saying his team wasn't mean and nasty. I have absolutely no problem with that because they know they weren't. If you tell somebody you aren't, then you aren't.
So how do you fix that then?
But you got to get a mean and nasty person on that defense. There's no other way to do it because you have to emulate something. You just can't be mean and nasty. It's an innate thing.
But
some people
is that a bad thing to say about? So I mean, I think from the outside, you would look at the Buccaneers defense, and you would be surprised by that for one reason: you have Vita Vea on this team.
Okay. For
people that don't know Vita Vea, you would think, look at that big dude. He's the only guy that can stop the tush push. Rob Gronkowski just came out on a podcast with Julian Edelman saying, I smacked Vita Vea's ass one time, and he looked at me and said, don't you ever scare the living crap out of him.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Isn't it surprising, though? Like, Vita played a lot last year. It wasn't one of those Vita seasons where he didn't play all that much. So I'm a little surprised that with, and we know Levante, right? Levante's a different kind of cat. He's an OG. He's a quiet leader.
They're all quiet leaders.
But to not have the killer instinct when you had those guys. So none of those guys on the team are Dominican Sue or JPP. Ooh. That's what I'm saying.
I'm asking you.
So how do you fix it?
You didn't used to have to ask.
No, I know, but now you do.
There's always somebody you have to fear. You know what I mean?
There's no fear.
There's no fear. It doesn't happen. You just can't create that. Okay, you could be an offensive line, and when I say Tristan Wirfs, I just had some great conversation with Tony Mayberry earlier. We're talking about old linemen, and we're talking about Anthony Munoz back in the day, and we're talking about mean linemen. Do you think Tristan Wirfs is mean? He's not.
No.
Okay, so then he can get better.
Yeah.
If I was an offensive line coach, I would say to Tristan, now his next level is to get mean. Be mean. Be the baddest motherfucker out there all the time. Are you driving guys' heads into the ground? And then, well, listen, Tristan's gonna get a coat anyways. Okay, he's going to the Hall of Fame, no doubt about it. But set yourself apart now. Like if I say mean offensive lineman, John Runyon came to, Anthony Munoz, Tony Baselli, Jonathan. I mean, those, and Jonathan Ogden was mean just because. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know if I want to go against that. It's just a problem.
And it's funny you say that because I was watching a video yesterday of Baker Mayfield going on with Colin Cowherd after he got drafted. Yeah. And they've had beef for a long time.
I like Colin, but I don't like his angle on Baker.
Yeah. So Baker said to him something to the effect of, he's like, why do you do this? Why do I want my guys to be a little bit more professional? He's like, have you ever played high level football?
Correct.
And he's like, no. And he's like, you have to play with an edge. You have to play with the intensity. He's like, it's a physical game. He's like, you can't just be out there. And I think partially that's part of the reason why. Of course, you're always going to compare it to Warren Sapp, but I think that's part of the reason why people didn't really care for Gerald McCoy. And even though there are other plays, and that's why I thought, in some ways it's hypocritical. It's like, well, Gerald used to help guys off the ground. I'm like, I've seen Ray Lewis do that. I've seen Luke Kuechly do that. I've seen other people do that too. But I've also seen those guys run around like their hair's on fire, like they're mean.
You've not seen Gerald do it. You've not seen Gerald. You've not seen
it's a different. Maybe people said, oh, it's a different time. There's still people that still do that nowadays, right? There's still people that, I think there's less because the game has changed, but there are players that still have that a little bit of reckless abandon to them. They play the game really hard. And I think that's more of a throwback now than anything.
Well, going back to Baker Mayfield, I think one of the most overused statements in sports, and maybe it's more in the media, is he has a chip on his shoulder. Ain't nobody playing professional sports that doesn't have a chip on their shoulder. Possible.
And they keep it there.
It's impossible. I have a chip right now. I was born with a chip. I'm just telling you. Nothing was ever given to me, not one time, ever. Nobody ever said, here, Ian. Never. I had to earn everything. So I know once I stop earning something, it's going to go away. So I've always had a chip on my shoulder for everything I've always done in my life. And they'll say Baker Mayfield has a chip on his shoulder. That's just because he's a quarterback. How about a 6'1" offensive lineman who has a 6'7" guy behind him making more money? I don't think it's a chip. You just got to not exhale. You know what I mean? Chip on your shoulder is easy to say. Why does he have a chip on his shoulder? He won a Heisman. I mean, why? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to pick a guy who won a Heisman to have a chip on his shoulder? It's just because he's an undersized guy.
Right.
Big guys have chips on their shoulder, too. Dan Marino has a chip on his shoulder.
Does, right?
Everybody has a chip.
You find it.
If you don't have a chip on your shoulder, you can't play. Mm-hmm. You can't play. Tom Brady is such a mild-mannered person. He's just this normal-looking when he speaks. There's such a big chip.
Yeah, I mean,
everything he says.
198 players were picked before him. Gonna live with that
that's
forever.
Not why he's like that. He was born that way.
Yeah, but I think
that was their problem. The problem is the guys who passed him just made a mistake. They just didn't see something. I could say the same thing. You think I'd have been a different player if I was drafted in the second round? I'd be the same player, I just have more money. I'm not going to have a bigger chip. No, there's no.
But what do you say to those guys that get fat then when they get paid?
Okay, well, once again, you're talking about two different things.
Fat,
it does happen. It does happen. Yeah. But there's two different. If I get drafted in the 5th round or 2nd round, I don't know if I even work harder in the 2nd round because there's more expectations. I'd be the same player. I just have more money.
Though.
That's what I'm saying.
But I'm saying it's got to be different for everybody.
Well, it is. Everybody has a different level.
Because you've seen it as well as I do. Professional athletes that you win in college, you win in high school, you get to the pros, and it's like, oh, you're a really great player. You get drafted to a crappy team, and you got to put in twice the effort, and you're like, those guys aren't built for that, man. You see these guys flame out, especially in football, because it's not just performance. It's the physicality.
Sure.
Like, you're going to get dumped on your head if you don't do it right. It isn't like basketball, like, you're just going to go sit on the bench. Or baseball, you struggle, you go sit on the bench. In football, you get
I understand. Man. Now, and listen, I'm a realist as well, okay? Clearly, when I got drafted in 1990 and I got a $90,000 signing bonus.
Where's that money now?
That money been gone. Keith McCants got, I think, a $2.5 million signing bonus, okay?
How much?
$2.5 million at the time, and I got 90,000. So there's a big difference between $2.5 million and 90,000.
Same draft class?
Same draft class. Okay, Tony was in it. Reggie Cobb was in it. So I can't say with a clear mind that I would have been exact same if I got $2.5 million. I can't. I don't know. I think I would. Because that's not the be all end all.
You would hope not.
No, because I don't think I never really had that mentality.
But here's the thing: you had that money either.
Correct. Now,
life changing at that age.
Well, at any age.
I'm saying at that time in your life.
Absolutely.
Right?
Now, but there was a time that I did get some money. Wasn't that much money, but I did get money. And there was a time where I had a lot of money, and nothing ever changed. It never changed. Like the amount of money that I made had nothing to do with my love for football. And I know, and not everybody can say that. I know it because I've seen it. I've seen people exhale.
It's circumstance, right?
Correct.
Whatever.
I think it's the way you're made. I
think it's nature versus nurture, though, man. Because you see guys, and maybe you get into a position where you see other guys mess up. I'm not going to be like that guy, but then you get an influx of money. It's always different when it happens to you. That's why, and I think we have this conversation a lot. It's so easy to be like, that professional athlete did that. I would never do that. You don't know that. You don't know. You know why? Different.
Thank you.
We're all very similar, but we're all different. You don't know what type of variables are going to affect you. Somebody over here, women may not be their vice, but your buddy over here,
correct,
he can't stay out of the club on Friday nights, right?
Yeah.
This guy over here, he enjoys a drink, but he never goes overboard. This guy over here, he can't wait till 5 o'clock hits, and then he starts tipping the bottle. Mm-hmm. So it's all circumstantial of what kind of person you are, and you would hope, I think as you get older, you're like, I hope that if my circumstance changed, that my foundation wouldn't, right? I think we'd all hope that with a clear mind. Now, I want to ask you this too, and we were going to talk about this. I want to ask you, because being a former professional athlete, so Patrick Waugh last night after the Lightning Islanders game said that Anthony Duclair, who we know pretty well because he got traded to the Lightning last year, he said that Anthony Duclair was god-awful, and said that, I just said he shouldn't be playing here, and I hope he hears it. It was just, I don't know if he said he hope he hears it, but it kind of caught a lot of people off guard because Islanders they're not going to make the playoffs. Patrick Waugh is a Patrick Waugh, Hall of Fame goaltender, not personally, but I know him as a goalie. And he says this about a guy who's been around the league, 7 or 8 different teams. Overall, seems like a really nice guy from dealing with him last year. But we also are at a point now where the coach-player relationship is magnified to the nth degree because of social media and because there's so many different talking heads. When you hear that, coach saying a guy was god-awful and singling him out like that, does that bother you? Does it just seem like, hey, this is sports, he needs to toughen up, he's got to deal with it? Do you think Waugh went over the line? What do you think?
Well, here's my thing. I never know the circumstances, okay? We think we know the circumstances. Let me give you a scenario, okay? And then you tell me if this sounds crazy. Here's a scenario. Patrick Waugh is in a room. I don't want this guy. He's our guy. I don't want him. He sucks. We're signing him. And then they sign him, and then they get drubbed. Then he's like, and everybody's like, how come you signed him? Listen, that ain't my guy. So I hate to comment because it sounds like there's not a relationship. Because what I've had.
What do you think he would say that even if he was this guy? Let's say the other.
No. If you are going to have confidence in this guy in the future, can't do that.
Well, he's in his 30s. He's an older guy.
Still, but that guy.
I almost look at it the other way. Like, if you know he's going to be gone after the season anyway, then
you know what Patrick was saying? This is me or you.
Yeah, but
it's me or him,
and he's not a big time player anyway.
That's what I'm saying. That's all he's saying is it's me or him.
But does he have to say that?
Maybe. I don't know how it is behind closed doors. Maybe you have to say. Maybe you have to get the media to talk about this for it to happen. Because sometimes you speak on deaf ears.
And I'm pretty sure he's. But it'd be one thing, right? If he's on a one-year deal, Ian, there's 8 games left.
It doesn't matter. If that wasn't his guy and he doesn't want him in there, and you're trying to develop something, it's going to be hard to develop something with a piece of crap that's not going to be in there next year. He's just trying to say, guys, you're not helping me here.
Ooh, damn.
What happened?
4-year deal.
So this is the front office going, sucks to be you. And he's like, Okay, I'm going to give you a great scenario.
This is exactly what that is. So hold on before you get to that.
Yep.
So I was looking at this like it's a 1-year deal. He's 29 years old. At the end of the 8 games, for a guy that wants to obviously get back to playing for the Stanley Cup. First year. This is exactly what you just. This is exactly what you just said. Going, it was god awful, and there's only 2 ways this is going to go. Because I don't think they're going to get rid of Patrick Waugh. This guy's either going to get his gas in the gear in the offseason and fix it, or they're going to get rid of him. There's no in between.
I don't think they're both going to be there. I really don't. I really, really don't. Once you go there with it, there's really nowhere to go.
Okay, so I'll ask you that then.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing to do? Like, if you're a player and you see that that's how a coach handles his business with a guy who's, again, we don't know, but it's a little different because I got a chance to meet the guy and be around the guy last. And he's played for a bunch of different teams. Yeah. He seems like a really, really awesome guy. Haven't heard anything bad about him in the media at all. If you're another player, like let's say you're a Matt Barzell, who's the best player on the team, and you know, that's probably one of your boys. You know what I mean? That's probably one of your guys. He seems like a great guy. He's been around the league. And that's how your Hall of Fame coach talks, not Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame player turned coach talks about him. Does that affect your relationship with the coach at all? Because I tell you what, if you choose, between Waugh and Duclair, you're picking Patrick Waugh. Between Patrick Waugh and Matt Barzell, you're picking Matt Barzell. Okay. That's your best player.
Okay. Funny thing is, I have a scenario that I was in that's very similar. Okay. When I went to Denver, it was at the end of my career. That would have been 2000. I went to Denver, and their offensive line coach was Alex Gibbs. And if you break down the best offensive line coaches ever, he's number one. Nobody's higher than him. He's number one. So now I'm in Denver. If you know anything about Denver's scheme, they run the stretch, okay? But they run it different than everybody else. It's just a little bit more passive. It's a lot more drop stepping. It's a lot more delaying. It's a passive movement. I'm not a passive player. I'm an aggressive player. I come out like shotgun. That's what I do. So I get over there. They switch me to left guard. And I'm playing a passive position on a side that I haven't played since I was in college, and everything was backwards. And I didn't have you couldn't be more uncomfortable than I was, okay? But the third day in the practice, Alex Gibbs says to me, "You might be the worst lineman I've ever coached." I went home the next day. That's enough. What? Why am I going to stick around? That's the same situation as this guy. I knew I could play. That guy can still play. But Patrick Waugh doesn't have any confidence in you.
No.
And now nobody else going to have confidence in you either because your coach just said you're a piece of crap. Okay? So.
And it's probably worse for him. You know why? He's not playing in a different position.
What I'm saying.
You played a different
position. No, I'm going to ask you. Position. If he says he's god awful, is he right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm the Chamberlain coach. If I say that guy's god awful, am I right? I know a lot about. If I say that, but I wouldn't say it, Jay, unless in my mind he was god awful. Now, remember we were just talking about if you don't like somebody, things are worse. If you didn't want this guy here, and if you don't want, I'll give you a good example. If you're watching a boxing match and it's Floyd Mayweather against McGregor, and you're going for McGregor, you're going to see all the punches McGregor hits. You're not going to see
You're looking at one side.
You're just going to see all the negative things. So all Patrick Waugh sees is the bad stuff.
What he wants to see.
Exactly.
And it doesn't even have to be preconceived. That could develop over the year.
It is preconceived, though, when you don't want somebody to succeed.
But we don't know that for sure.
Well, but that's true.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, he's part of your success. You signed him to a 4-year deal. Whether you wanted him or didn't want him, because we don't know that. Regardless of how it started, this is where we're at right now. Because he might have thought he could have contributed to the team. And then when he watched him play, he's like, oh, this guy, no, he's got awful. So whether he's right or wrong about his original assessment,
you know it's personal.
He's at now.
It's personal.
To say something like that, I don't know.
It is.
It is. I don't. But coaches like that, do you think it's personal with them?
Yes.
Because of them or the player?
Humans don't like each other.
No,
think about that. Some humans just don't like each other.
All right, but there's a difference between like what happened with John Tortorella and Cam York. He was talking smack. He said, "If I'm here next year, you're never going to play." And you have a scenario here where I think Torts gets.
I don't think Torts is the guy to take things personal, though.
But you just said he's a human being.
No, but okay.
Torts said that.
Okay.
And you know what Torts did? Wait. Because they weren't going to go with Torts.
Okay.
So it is personal for him. He quit his job. He quit his job.
But he's a principal guy.
Can't, just because you like Tortorella doesn't mean it's not personal.
That is true.
There's a difference.
I do like Torts.
No, but here's my thing, right? Is that Tortorella's gotten worse, right? His success level has gone this way since he left the Tampa Bay Lightning. He didn't make it a full season in Vancouver. Columbus, they beat the Lightning, but other than that, didn't fare well. Didn't fare well in Philadelphia. So that attitude with him and the players is not working at all. His winning percentage is way worse from the time he was with the Rangers and the Lightning to where he's at right now.
I think Torts the
Patrick
guy now.
I don't think he's going to even come
He
back.
might not,
I don't
he
think
might
anybody
not.
wants part of
He
him.
might not.
But here's the thing about Patrick Waugh. He's a Hall of Fame goalie. You know what he's not? Not even close to being a Hall of Fame or a Stanley Cup winning coach. So that is another thing, Ian, where I understand, right? I understand that you are a former professional athlete and there's things that you're going to talk about when it comes to being in the game and knowing the game. But the fact that one of the top 3 or 5 goaltenders of all time can't hold a candle to a guy that was a lawyer, that is the head coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning, tells you all you need to know. That it doesn't necessarily, it can help you when you talk about experience. You know the worst NHL coach of all time is? Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
He was the worst.
Yeah.
Go watch those Arizona Coyotes games. That team stunk. Who's one of the worst owners in NBA history as far as not putting a winning product on the field? Michael Jordan. So even though...
But there's butts in there, though, Jay.
Because you like big butts and they cannot
Yes,
lie.
I do.
Barry Bonds was not a great hitting coach.
No, because they're too good. They were born with that. But this is my thing, though.
There's not... You're saying the same thing.
Kind of.
Because it's conditional,
Yes.
right? Because what did those guys really have to do, right? That's why great coaches are what? Backup quarterbacks, catchers. You very rarely
students of the game.
Students of the game. Why, Ian? Because they had to do every single little thing possible and learn so many different aspects of the game.
Let me ask you a question, though. If I say, I want somebody to tell me whether this guy could be a good hockey player or not, you're going to take Wayne Gretzky or John Cooper?
Yeah, but that's talent analysis.
I understand that. I understand that. I understand. Okay, no. Okay, I agree with that. Patrick Waugh saying this guy's god awful. That's just him assessing it as a former hockey player.
That's why I don't disagree with
That's
his
what
assessment.
I'm saying, though. If he says he's god awful, then I believe
But
this
is
guy's
that a positive
god-awful.
attribute as a head coach?
No, absolutely not.
That's what I'm saying.
But I think this one's deeper than just his head coaching.
Oh, yeah.
Listen,
but he has no track record of being a good coach.
Well,
that's not good.
Once again, I think that's irrelevant. I really, at this moment, okay? Just winning and losing and assessing talent to me is irrelevant because I think you could be a great assessor of talent and still not be a great coach. You have to be in the right situation, have the right players, a lot of things involved. You know what I'm saying?
There's also There's something called tact. Mm-hmm. There's also something called candor. Just because you assess a talent a certain way, maybe you do think he's god awful.
I don't love what he did. I don't love what he did.
You have to say it like
I
that.
don't want a coach
You know
that
what I mean?
I don't want a coach that does that. I don't.
Your leader's supposed to be your leader's, your team is supposed to be a reflection of a leader, right?
Watch out, our president.
Huh?
Whatever you say, our president.
Phenomenal job. Hey, 51% of the country is like that, okay?
But is the president like that? Whatever you going to say, is the president like that?
Wonderful job. And you have a wonderful shirt on.
Thank you.
Allie, I know Allie.
Allie, baby. Yeah, man.
But Nikita Kucherov does some crazy shit. The other day, Saturday's game against Islanders, it's 3-2 or 4-3, whatever. He has a wide open empty net, and he passes the puck. And in your mind, you're like, oh,
was Cirelli going for something?
God. Oh, I think it was Hagel. I think he just tries to get people
involved.
I don't know, right? Eventually they score, but Phil was going crazy.
I said that right away. What's Phil going to say?
I gotta show you the video of Phil losing. But Pierre Maguire and Jeff Merrick on a podcast up in Canada were talking about kind of just live with that kind of stuff because Kuch is going to turn around and do 20 to 25 things that nobody else on the planet can do. Regardless of what he does. Kucherov. One thing that we've never seen? John Cooper, he has never, ever said to me, Eric Erlinson, Ed Encino, not one thing about Nikita Kucherov. Not one thing in a way. He says, we'll handle it in-house.
Yeah.
He said he didn't do his job. That's it. wasn't a personal attack. It was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He sat his ass. There was a game in Buffalo 2 years ago where the entire third period, Braden Point, Steven Stamkos, and Nikita Kucherov sat their ass on the bench the entire period. Your 3 best players. John Cooper's on national TV the next day, and he was just like, we needed to just,
None of your business.
But that's the thing. But that's the difference, right? We know. We're not idiots. We know Anthony Duclair played like shit. We know he's got like 15 freaking points. He's got 11 points this year.
The whole year.
11 points. He's a minus 15. Are you kidding? Signed a 4-year deal.
That sounds
14
crappy
million.
to me. It sounds crappy.
It is crappy.
Okay.
But that's the thing. A guy like that, okay, if you're a good coach, you know what you're doing in that situation? You're either looking at yourself, 44 games, so he was hurt some of the year, but still, point every 4 games, minus 15. But as a coach, what are you doing in that situation? You're saying a couple things. One, am I doing everything I can? If you say no, then okay, you can improve. If you say yes, then you get to the point of, how do we move this guy? Do I put him on the 4th line? Can I scratch his ass? Because we've seen that. Healthy scratch. It happens everywhere. Regardless, they signed Connor Sheary, the Lightning, 2 years ago. They healthy scratched his ass. But not one time did John Cooper ever say that guy was god-awful or he sucked. We set it up in the press box. But a guy like that, nowadays, with the way that goes, it's one thing if you're trying to send a message. But in 2025, I don't see successful coaches acting like that. You don't see Mike Tomlin doing that. He's a hard-nosed coach. You don't see John Harbaugh doing that. You don't see John Cooper doing that. You don't see A.J. Hintz or Alex Cora or Dave Roberts. None of those guys doing that. You don't see Steve Kerr do that, right? Like, even Greg Popovich, he'll say what he wants, right? He wouldn't even do stuff like that. So, I mean, there's a common thread with great coaches. Like you said yourself, you wouldn't like somebody to do that to you.
No, I like a coach that will tell you, like Ray Perkins was an a-hole. I was fine with it. Because you played like crap. Okay. And you know what? He was right.
Who did he say it to?
Me.
Didn't he say it?
He didn't say it to the press. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, there was a time I read in the paper, Sam White says, Ian Beckles didn't play particularly well. I hope he didn't lose his edge. I would rather you say that to me than to say it in the press and me read it. I didn't love that so much. Let me show you maybe the behind the scenes of a coach that a lot of people don't consider. Do you think Greg Schiano was a good NFL coach?
Hell no.
Okay. Now watch me now. Greg Schiano got a team that had a first-round quarterback with all the ability in the world that every Friday night was at the Kennedy throwing up, taking all kind of drugs, running around in cheerleader shorts. Okay? So, what are the odds of Greg Schiano? And Greg Schiano knows everything. Mm-hmm. You think he wants that to be his quarterback? Doesn't. Does he have a choice? Doesn't. They just spent a lot of money in that guy. He has all the year before he did this or whatever. He has all the potential. So you got to just live and die with this guy, knowing that it's on you. At the end of it, you just said he's not a good coach. I'm going to say, well, what if his quarterback was Peyton Manning? Would he be a good coach? You see what I'm saying? So for these coaches to sit back and depend on that guy for my success, I think is hard. Sam White and Trent Dilfer hated each other at the end of the season. And he benched him and put Casey Weldon in, and they went at it and all this kind of stuff. But if that quarterback and the offensive coordinator and the head coach hate each other, it's impossible for it to succeed. So one of them has to go.
But if you're that good of a coach, aren't you going to get another crack at it?
Somewhere.
And if you do,
somewhere,
if you're that good, eventually you find a way, right? Because there's plenty of examples. And I know people don't want to hear this, but there's a guy right here in the Tampa Bay area who's a lot better now than he was at his first job, and that's Todd Bowles. And it's not close because I watched him with the Jets. Look at Bill Belichick. Look at Pete Carroll. A lot of these guys.
Everybody.
But why?
Nobody's that good.
But that's what I'm saying, Ian, is whether your circumstance is right or wrong or not. If you get another chance, if you're that good, you're going to find a way because you're going to learn from what didn't work out. And this is kind of going into what we were talking about with Todd Bowles. So Bowles is now at the point in his tenure, and there's people that still think he's not great or whatever. They don't like the guy. But now, saying a killer instinct thing, which I think is very fair. But he's also hired a guy to be a game manager for him, to take more off of his plate. And one of the things that he doesn't do well is that. So the stubborn former NFL player that was the leading man for the New York Jets that watched that team just absolutely crumble and have himself and Bruce Arians and his friends and family and people that follow football, will he ever get another opportunity in the NFL? The reason why Bruce did what he did. Not the only reason, but, I mean, he wanted to make sure that Todd was left in a better place. His second opportunity now, he's done what? He's been more open-minded, more versatile. He's gotten rid of coaches this past year. He's loyal to his players, but eventually he moved on from JTS and gave Yaya the starting job. He didn't give it back to Devin White when he was healthy. He would stay with KJ Brady. He got rid of Ryan Neal and put some other guys here. So Todd Bowles has proven that second opportunity, because it was with the Jets. He didn't have a ton of great players there, and it got progressively worse as the time went on. So I think great players, great coaches, your first experience may not be great, but eventually, if you get to a different scenario, it's on you to make that adjustment. I think Todd Bowles deserves a lot more credit than he gets here in Tampa Bay.
Well, I agree with everything you said. And here, as you were explaining this, I realized that I think maybe the biggest key to being a great coach is being able to tuck your ego a little bit. Okay?
Right.
That's facts. Now, watch me. Did Bill Parcells tuck his ego? Listen a bit. Watch before you answer now. Did he tuck his ego? Because his player showed up during the game and he put him in the game. He showed up during the game. Okay, so you got to tuck your ego. Because Charles Haley never went to practice. But he wouldn't work with Greg Schiano. You have to tuck your ego. Certain guys, you just got to go, okay, we're going to figure it out. Okay? Belichick's like that. Okay?
Yeah.
Belichick.
Where did he learn it from?
That's
Tom
what I'm
Coughlin
saying.
was the
That's
same
what I'm
way.
saying. They didn't give a crap.
I always thought that one of the most important things that I said when I was a coach was, I'm not going to treat everybody the same. I'll treat everybody fair.
You can't.
You can't. It's impossible.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. The kid that shows up 2 minutes after practice every day because his mom takes him because his mom's running around, like, you can't penalize a kid like that if every single practice that's the only time he can get there. Right? It's impossible. And it's funny because we want to talk about another disciple is Tom Coughlin. And Tom Coughlin was 0-2 in 2007, and he's stubborn as shit, doesn't want to change, and he's walking down the sideline, and he's like, he's chasing after Michael Strahan. He's like, do you hear me? Do you hear me? Do you hear me? And Michael Strahan turns around, and he something to the effect, and probably correct me. You're losing your team. Can you hear me? Yeah. And what did Tom Coughlin do it wasn't a spring chicken,
no, it was
right?
not.
He goes, oh, shit.
Tucked his ego.
And he started a leadership council. 2 guys on offense, 2 guys on defense, 2 guys on special team. And now what? He's a guy 2
Does
Super
Mike
Bowl
McCarthy
champion.
have a guy like this? Because he sucks at the end of half.
For him, I don't even know if it's a guy. I just don't know if he's a great coach, right?
No, he's not.
Because...
But he still don't have somebody helping him. That means his ego's
he's gone now. He ain't coaching.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, he should have...
Yeah, but I don't know if it's ego. I don't know if every single one... Because he was the opposite. He had success in his first turn, and even though he had regular season success... Because that's another argument, and I want to get your opinion on this, too. I feel like, and it's great because we talk about Aaron Rodgers a lot. I feel like teams and players, they have one successful run. They have one successful year where they may win a championship. And for the rest of their career, people grade them on that 1 year where everything came together. You may have had a ball bounce your way or a guy get hurt. Everything aligned for you to be a champion. But you never, ever got back to that place again. You never, ever were a champion again. And it doesn't mean that you take that away from them, but you have to judge people on what they are right then and there. John Tortorella is a great example. You can never take away that he led the Lightning to a Stanley Cup champion. I don't want him anywhere near my team in the National Hockey League. Doesn't mean he's not a champion. It doesn't mean he doesn't know what it takes to get there. But if you don't adjust and you're still hanging on to that one season where everything came together, I think that's one of the worst things in sports. And Aaron Rodgers is a great example.
A lot of examples.
Ian, he
There's
did.
a lot of examples.
If I would have told a lot of people that after Aaron Rodgers won championship, that would be the only one that he would win, I would say that you're crazy. Because at that time, people were like, this guy is on his way to being in the GOAT conversation. Super athletic, extremely accurate with the football. He can move. Like, he did. It seemed like he was that guy. Commercials. This was before we really knew who the guy was, right? Outside of that 1 year, Beck, what did we see? We saw a lot of coming up short in the playoffs. We saw a lot of like, don't really like what he's saying. We don't really like how he's treating the rest of the team. But what do we have at the end of the day? Did we have Aaron Rodgers? Like, yeah, he won a couple MVPs, but did we get that Super Bowl winning quarterback outside of that 1 year? I mean, does it mean anything if you win the MVP? If you're a guy like that, if you bow out in the playoffs and don't play well, you hang on to that one season in sports, and I think that's crippling.
I've never liked Aaron Rodgers. Now, if you ask me specific questions about Aaron Rodgers, can he spin it? Yes, sir. As well as anybody else. Is he a good quarterback? You have to say yes. You have to. Just go look and see what he's done. Okay, you have to say he's a great quarterback. You have to say he's a great quarterback. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Do I want him as my quarterback? No. Right now, no. But I want him as my quarterback the last 5 years? Probably not. Okay, because I have found out that he's not a team player at all. Okay, and when you look back to sports, and we do it with not every sport, football especially with the quarterback position, one championship changes everything. Now, Eli Manning with his career and different bounces in 2 games has, if Eli Manning doesn't have a championship, he don't go. He don't go.
Not even close.
Okay, so he has 2 championships, so he has to go.
He's the biggest enigma, I think, in sports history.
Well, okay.
And the reason why I say that is because it happened twice.
Okay.
So my argument is that what other people do one time, Eli did it twice. Right? Look at Joe Flacco.
Which means it's not luck. It's not luck. It's not luck.
But it's
not.
Lightning struck twice but for Eli. That's a 500 quarterback.
To take a team all the way through the season and
twice to beat the same team.
That you can't do that.
Quarterback.
There's no luck in that.
But I understand that. But what I'm saying is that nobody is ever going to have a career like Eli Manning in any sport, because you're never going to get a guy with that type of pedigree, who is the number 1 overall pick, that the team's going to stick with him.
There's some luck. There's some luck in it.
But what I'm saying is, you're never going to get a guy that's a number 1 overall pick. That if he doesn't win those Super Bowls, he is probably a bust. He's not even close to his brother. Nothing. People look at Eli, and the narrative's completely changed. But during 2 postseason runs, he beat Rodgers. He beat Favre. He beat Tony Romo. He beat who was it? Jeff Garcia. He beat Brady twice. Like, that's why it's so crazy. But you look at these other guys in sports, one time, the Russell Wilsons of the world, right? Russell Wilson's a great example. That 1 year, people look at him. He's a champion. He'll always be a champion.
Yes.
But as you just alluded to with Aaron Rodgers, do you want any part of Russell Wilson in the last 5 years?
Yeah. There is some luck in it now. It's a timing thing. Terry Bradshaw. If Terry Bradshaw played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he ain't going to the Hall of Fame. If Joe Montana gets drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he's not going to the Hall of Fame. If Vinny Testaverde is drafted by the San Francisco 49ers, he may be in the Hall of Fame. That's real talk. So there's got to be some luck to it. You win 1 Super Bowl, you're authenticated for the rest of your life. Trent Dilfer won 1, Brad Johnson won 1. If you put 1 more on Brad Johnson's career, you got to put him in the Hall of Fame. Okay, so that's why it's weird, because it's a timing thing. You got to be timed up to land somewhere that everything is cool in the front office. Your head coach is cool. Right. Your defense is cool. You're making plays. Your offensive line's good. You got a running back. Your receivers aren't prima donnas. That's a lot of stuff. So to do that once is crazy, but to do it twice is unheard of. So, like Terry Bradshaw's numbers, you ever look at them? He barely threw more touchdowns than interceptions. Yeah. There's people now. If you don't throw twice as many, you ain't worth a crap. So it's a timing thing. And if I say to you, I'll go down a list. Is Eli Manning better than Matt Ryan?
Yeah.
Is he? Why though? Just because he won? That's what I'm saying. But his numbers are close. Matt Ryan's numbers are not. At the end of the day, the most important thing is winning championships.
I know. But that's my argument about Eli Manning, is that I think you can find multiple examples in all of sports where a guy has one run, one season, and he's a champion for life. But
not two though.
But it's not the.
But quarterback is different than any other sport. Though.
It's harder.
It's way harder. It's
so you
way
understand
harder.
what I'm saying?
It's way harder.
There's nobody that's ever going to do what Eli Manning did ever because
not with so little talent. I'm sorry. What was he?
That defensive line was
No. I'm talking about talent of Eli Manning because he didn't do anything better than anybody else. He was so solid and he was
very
tough.
He was very accurate, very tough, and durable.
Tough.
He made some incredible throws. But his career is unparalleled.
Yeah.
And not because it's higher than anybody else's. It's because I don't know if there's ever been a player whose peaks and valleys were like that. Right?
I don't think he was top five in anything, though.
Ever. I don't know.
In anything.
But he was never a top five quarterback in the league. But here's the thing with Eli Manning.
He was there.
Anytime.
He was always there.
But he could beat any team.
He didn't make a lot of mistakes.
He beat the teams
he did.
in the regular season. He beat everybody.
Yeah. I'll take Eli Manning all day long. I'll start with team
because
with
you know
Eli
why?
Manning.
But here's the other reason why. Is the same reason why you take other players. If you need one game to win.
Here's another one.
Here's the thing. If you need one football game to win, and you say Eli Manning.
Have you ever heard anybody say anything negative about Eli or Peyton? In any avenue, anywhere, on or off the field. They're just regular cats. And this.
Now we're just waiting for Arch.
I would put so much money in Arch. Arch has mad athletic ability, dog. Yeah. Hey, let me tell you what you're
arched up.
Let me tell you what you're not gonna do. You're not gonna fool Arch, okay? Arch been heard about that blitz. He been heard. We was 4 here. He goes, oh no, I see you moving.
You know his first.
I know you're
his
blitzing.
First words were Omaha. Omaha. I want to get to a couple things before we've been rolling on football a lot and talk a little hockey as well. Did you see what Steph Curry did last night and Jokic? Curry put up 52, second time 50 this year, 15th in his career. Jokic 61 points in a triple-double, and they lost in double overtime. But I look at those two guys and talk about timing. I'm glad that we live in the era of those guys because Steph Curry changed the game of basketball. And Jokic is one of those people that win MVP. It'll probably go to Shea because of how good the Thunder are this year. And I don't know if there's a guy in sports right now outside of maybe Connor McDavid that every time I watch him, he every single time he controls the flow of the game, he pass, he shoot. He just does everything. He is on a completely different level, and he would much rather be watching his horses, which is great. But to live in an era where we get to see Steph Curry change the game with the way he can shoot, getting old now. I mean, he's no spring chicken anymore. And to see Jokic do what he can do, clearly the best big man in the game. I mean, it's pretty wild. The NBA, I won't say they're in decent hands because they're not getting any younger, but those two guys still, man, firing on all cylinders.
Like, I don't love the product. Okay, I really don't. I watch it, and I'm like, I'll watch it, but I don't love the product compared to what it used to be. And the one argument a lot of old school people will say is it's not the same game. Watch me here, okay? And I've heard people say that guy couldn't survive in the old day at NBA. I dare you to say Curry or Jokic couldn't play in the old NBA. I dare you. No way. There's no way they're not the same player. Both of those players would be it's not true though. There's some players wouldn't be as I don't think James Harden would be as good in the old school game. Right. Okay. These two guys, their game's gonna be the same. Mm-hmm. You can't stop that. You can't in any physicality, you're gonna be physical with Steph Curry? How? Just gonna take you out to center court and go around you. You know what I'm saying? So they have the type of game that I don't care what generation it is, it's gonna be fantastic. So I don't love the product, but when I watch Jokic play, I remember watching him thinking, he's not, and I was wrong. He's wrong. He doesn't miss. He's just so fundamentally sound in an awkwardly slow manner. It's so slow and methodical, but so is Kareem. And so is Hakeem, and Hakeem was more athletic, but Jokic is one of those guys, I don't get it. I don't get it. Why is he that good, though?
Yeah.
It's been a while too.
And then lastly, you've seen these new torpedo bats.
I have. I think it's hoopla right now.
Hoopla.
I think it's only hoopla. You know why? Because the Yankees hit all those home runs. Of
course.
And the Yankees developed it, and they're trying to sell bats. And and this is my thing. They almost broke a record, but the team that has a record had normal bats. Okay, so
Aaron
it's
Judge
not.
ain't using it.
That's what I'm saying. You think Aaron Judge needs a fucking torpedo bat? He can use a toothpick. Literally.
I want to ask you this before we wrap it up, because I think torpedo bats are not only a good thing for the game, but they're a fantastic thing for the game. Here's why. The only way baseball is going to be back in the lexicon and back of the exciting sports is if there's more offense.
I agree.
Is if there's more people hitting. What happened in 1994? The strike that just ruined baseball. It probably prevented baseball from being sustained in Montreal. I mean, what happens if the strike doesn't happen and the Expos beat the Yankees in the World Series that year?
Well, look at their team.
Bro, look at the Yankees team. That matchup would have been insane.
Stacked.
Don Mattingly's last time, I mean, you got the best player and the biggest market. He could finally win a World Series. He retired after the 95 season. You have the Expos and that team. Let's say that game goes let's say that series goes 7 games.
And we do so
and the Expos win. Right? Game it changes. There's baseball in Montreal today.
Changes.
1,000%. There's finances that you get from winning a championship like that.
Let me ask you a question.
Let
me ask you this question: if the Rays won one of those World Series,
I actually had this conversation.
Do you think it would be that much of a difference?
Not the 2021 because it happened in the bubble. It was during COVID, so I don't think so.
Okay, but either one of them,
possibly, because what do you get from that? You get more. Here's the thing: Ian, when you win championships like that, what do you get? You get more nationally televised games. Get more corporate partnerships. That's
so
where the money's at.
Stu Sternberg's making more money. That doesn't mean he's gonna spend it on the players.
No, but when you get more corporate sponsorships because they know you're gonna be on national television.
We don't know Stu's gonna spend the money though. We don't know that.
No, but when you have the money, well, you get to a point where you're making $400, $500, $600 million a year rather than $2 million.
Well, I don't know. How can he spend money? He's only making $200
all right, but we're not talking about the
Rays.
Rays. We're talking about the Expos.
I know.
But if the
Expos were hemorrhaging. It was different. It was a different time.
Yeah, but if you, in that opportunity right there, you could argue, I mean, what if Toronto didn't win those championships in the early 90s? We might not have baseball in Toronto.
They had a way better stadium. They got way better attendance.
Yeah, but if they lost, we don't know that.
The attendance in Montreal was
terrible. But how do you fix it, though? By winning championships? So we talk about that with the Rays, like, that they win. You got to win championships. You can't just compete.
You know what's amazing is how similar the Rays and the Expos. They're very similar.
I feel bad that you have
very, very similar.
Deal with that.
But then you want me to flip flop it on you? Think of the 2 cities that I cheered for hockey wise.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm good.
What was it like in the late '90s? Do you remember that when the home run chase with like McGuire and Sosa? Did you guys talk about that? Yeah.
I mean,
you were a professional athlete.
Did you not talk about it?
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, that was a time of steroid talk. And I was in the NFL. So
were they talking about that a lot in the NFL? Steroids?
We don't ever say. I don't think anybody ever heard anybody say steroids.
Yeah,
and ever.
It's
just not a. It's just not a word you say.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It's like mafia.
Yeah, you don't say it, bro. It just doesn't exist.
It's like Fight Club.
Yeah, actually, for tests, we got tested for steroids.
Yeah.
Oh no, we were the cleanest. We were the cleanest era in football for sure. Because in 1990 they started drug testing, and I got there in 1990. So,
they knew.
You know what I mean? It was me.
Montreal,
look at that thick guy.
How does Quebecian?
There's no way he's.
This Quebecian went to Indiana. He went to Iowa.
And he's strong in the mug.
Iowa to Indiana to the Buccaneers.
Strong.
You ever think about your journey and like what was the biggest part of your journey that you think if you didn't I'm saying from going from Montreal to Iowa to Indiana to Tampa Bay, right? To where you're at right now.
Yeah.
What part of your football career, if it didn't happen, like let's say like an injury that you came back from or an injury that you had or a bust that you missed or a game that you played really well, was there one thing that kind of kept you on that path?
Jesus Christ.
That's a great question.
It's a pretty darn good question. I could probably write a book on the question. It's funny you say that. I don't think I ever thought about it, but the one thing that propelled me forward in a weird way is I had signed my letter of intent with UNI, which is Northern Iowa. They were 1AA. They weren't a bad team, and I had to go back to Waldorf to graduate because I didn't do my SATs out of high school. So I was like the only guy sitting around. So I signed my letter of intent.
Did you have SITs? Were
In
the
high school,
SATs
no.
in Canada?
So
right?
I never take.
Yeah.
So you have to take your SATs
so
to
I
get.
figured, yeah.
So now I had to graduate from junior college. So I had to graduate. So I had to be there in the off season. And while I was in the off season, sitting there, the letter of intent that I signed was null and void because I had to go back to school. Wow. So while that happened, somebody flunked out of Indiana. Damon Bush or something Bush was his last name. He flunked out of Indiana. And I literally was the only guy sitting out there. Technicality. And they literally said, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I signed with UNI, but I'm still available. And they said, well, let's fly you in. And they flew me in as a 6'1", 300-pound kid. I could look like a lot of things. And I walked in and they all looked at me up and down. They're like, how much you bench press? I was like, 450. And he goes, how much you bench press, son? He goes, the record here is 450. And I go, 450? Would you want to put it on the bench? And he looked at me and I go, I will leave here with the record. That's how cocky I was.
They liked it.
That's not cocky. Not cocky. It was real, though. I left with the record.
Cocky and confidence. Tell me on the best compliment. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So that's what it was right there.
Yeah, that was, and it wasn't
not
me.
taking your SATs.
Well, there's a lot of factors in it, but just the fact that I got lucky to go to Indiana. My second year at Waldorf, I had a broken foot the whole season. Played on a broken foot. Not a broken foot. And my coach didn't tell nobody it was broken. You don't think scouts would care about that?
Yeah,
a lot. He played a whole season on a broken foot, and he played well. I got drafted. I got, recruited anyways, and nobody knew I had a broken foot. So that's the kind of crap I went.
I like to ask. Key to your success.
It might be the fact that I was Canadian.
Don't take your SATs.
Yeah, right.
That's the moral of
See?
the story.
There you go.
Good stuff today. I was going to show good stuff.
Really big
today.
show.
Ian_Beckles on Instagram. Make sure you come check us out here at the Dignitary Cafe, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. Go get you some kava, some kratom.
You're getting good at that, man.
Tom.
You're getting good at that little spiel.
Yeah.
Need some money in marketing? You do marketing?
My gig, man. It's my gig.
Let's go.
Follow me at Recher on all social media platforms. Beckles and Recher podcast every Wednesday at 3. I'm live every day at noon on the Recher podcast. Ed Encina, Ira Kaufman, and Brady North.
Easy Ed Encina?
On the program tomorrow. Easy Ed. Yeah.
Easy Ed.
Great guy.
Tell him all I say hi.
I will. Hey, Beck. Hey, guy. Give me the truth. Give me the scoop, Beck.
Ira's my guy.
The man. But yeah, everybody have a great rest of your week again. Get you some kava, some kratom. With some real chill vibes here. They're 420 friendly. Cut the tape.
Deuces, everybody.
If you're looking for the pulse of Tampa Bay sports, Beckles and Recher.